Good morning. We are going to get started on our asynchronous day today. We are going to take a look at our pop quiz part that we started on Monday. We briefly walked through it. If you were absent yesterday, this is a quick review for you. And we're going to get started by opening our drawing under week 15 in Schoology. So I'm going to zoom in here because we're going to reference this drawing sort of repeatedly as we go through. So I'm going to create a new document on OnShape here. I'm going to name it Kincaid, so your last name, and then quiz. All right, so we briefly talked about how to start this drawing, and we have a lot of dimensions going on. We have some important ones right now, and then you sort of have a choice how you want to begin. Do you want to do it in an additive manner, or do you want to do it in a subtractive manner? Your choice is where you go with your dimensions. So if you were going to do the subtractive method, you would take the overall height, width, and depth, and then you would subtract almost like that T shape from the top of your rectangle there if you were to extrude the entire thing into a rectangle first. So totally a method that you can do. How your brain works might be a little bit different than mine. I prefer to do the additive method, but how I do it is not the only way to do it, and how you do it is not the only way to do it as well. So it's kind of like a preference thing. You can decide how you'd like to accomplish your parts. How you get there is what you're most comfortable with, but as long as the finished product is the same, that's perfectly fine. All right, so let's begin. Let's identify our overall height, width, and depth, and then we can narrow down where we want to start. So our overall width is always going to be left to right on the front view, right? And that's the measurement from this side to this side is 1.5 inches. Right, so that must mean that our overall height, if we look at our front view, is the largest number here, right? The measurement from the bottom to the top is 1.75. And then our overall depth, we can either look at the top view. Unfortunately, there's no dimensions for the outside of the part, just the inside where that hole is. So we must look down on the side view, which is 1.5 inches wide because it's measuring from the front to the back of our part, or it's as if you're looking at this side of the object, of course. And that's 1.5, right? So 1.5 width, 1.75 height, 1.5 depth. Now, again, I'm not going to use the subtractive method, so I just want to build this base first, then we'll worry about overall height. But we do want to keep that 1.5 width in mind and that 1.5 depth in mind. So if we were building this base, we have two of our three dimensions, right? We have width this way and depth this way. What is our height right here? So we could take a look and says, okay, this is our bottom base, and it's 0.75 inches tall. Great, so let me go into Schoology, create a new sketch on the front plane. I'm going to grab my corner rectangle, and I said that this is 1.5 wide, 0.75 tall, right? And then our depth is the overall depth. Let me extrude that, and that depth was 1.5 inches. And then I'll hit the check. So the most intimidating thing about this shape is how do you do these fillets, the rounded edges, and keep your dimensions straight. And it's relatively intimidating to look at, but the part itself is very easy. We do that at the end. Now we could do it right now, but then you'll have to come back and do it again on the top of what we'll call the ears. So we're just going to wait on that, and we'll just do the fillets at the end. Those are very, very simple and shouldn't be intimidating, but they can be, right? So the next thing we're going to do is add our ears. So we have our bottom base. I'm going to rotate to the top view because we're basically just going to copy the top view onto here. So two methods of doing this as well. I mean, there's more than that, but two that are very easy to accomplish. So I'm going to create a new sketch in the top view just to prepare. And we know that there's going to be a rectangle here and a rectangle here. So two methods of doing this, right? You can use orthographic projection. That's carrying your lines up to different views, right? Here to here, here to here, right? And say, okay, this is 0.5 wide. And it absolutely is, right? So if this is 0.5 wide, how tall is it going this direction? Right? Not tall as in going up, but how, I guess you can say, what is the height of just this single rectangle here? Ignore the line down the center, that's the fillet. Right? This is the overall shape here because we're carrying it up. Right? So if this is 0.5, and then the distance from here to the beginning of the next object, the next ear there, is 1, and then our overall width is 1.5, we know that this is 0.5, the gap in between here is 0.5, and the other ear is also 0.5, because 0.5 plus 0.5 plus 0.5 is 1.5, right? So we can draw the rectangles right now with 0.5 because we know that dimension. Or you can do exactly what this is showing you, and it will create the gap and all that for you as well. But since we know it's nice and even, what I'm going to do is just draw my rectangles on both corners, right? 0.5, and then I'm going to leave that height because I'm going to change it once I'm done. So 0.5, great. Looks like there's rectangles there. But what is this dimension going up and down here? For that, we have to look at the side because it gives that dimension away by telling us what is the gap from the front to the start of our ear. So we can do that exact dimension and it'll pull that bottom piece down to make our ears the correct dimension, right? That just so happens to be 1.5 minus 0.75 is 0.75, so it's directly in half. So this ear, the width, this direction, right, is 0.75. Doesn't tell you here, you got to do a little bit of math, but however you want to do it, right? So if I say, how wide is this? It's going to tell me 0.75. Right? Once you have the ears drawn, we're going to extrude them up. How far are we going to go up? If our bottom base is 0.75 and our overall height is 1.75, just remove 0.75 from 1.75 and you get 1. Right? So we're going to extrude these up 1 inch. So default depth comes up 1 inch. All right? So that leaves on here, we have 4 dimensions remaining that we haven't touched. We have the 3 for the circle, the hole, and the fillet. So we're going to save the fillets, right, our 0.25, a quarter of an inch. We're going to save that for the end. Right, so let's take a look at our hole. So again, anytime that you are adding a hole to a part, it has 3 dimensions. Size and location. Size is always going to be measured in diameter, and the location is sort of like you're taking a look at the X and Y axis and saying it is this far along the X axis, this far along the Y, and you're just matching those coordinates to find the center of that circle, right? So this 0.375 is measuring from the center of the circle to the front of your object, so the front of your part. And then the 0.75 is measuring from the center of the circle to the side of your part, the right side. Right? So 0.75, 0.375 with a diameter of 0.25. So 2 ways to make a hole. You can use the hole feature. I'm not a big fan of it. I like to do it the old school way, which is create a sketch on top and draw it that way and extrude it through. How you do it is totally up to you. If you want to play around with this hole feature, some people are pretty good at it and can do it relatively quickly, but I prefer to do it this method because I can do this quickly. Right, so I'm going to start a new sketch on this upside down letter T, this Tetris piece here, and create a center point circle. I'm going to make the diameter 0.25 and hit enter. I'm going to hit D on my keyboard for the dimension tool, or you can click it up here. Click on the center point to the bottom line. Actually, let me go back so that you can see that again. Click on the center point, and then you'll see this center point right here. You don't want to click on that just in case your dimension wouldn't lock it to that center point. For us, it actually would because we're moving it to the center, but don't click on that dot whenever you're using the dimension tool. Click on the line. So 0.3733, we want to make that 0.375. And then we want to take center point to the right side, and that should be 0.75. Hit the check, because that circle is nice and centered up. And we're going to extrude it. Right? We don't want a peg coming up in between there. We want to remove that. So our part is only 0.75 inches here. So 1 inch will carry it all the way through. We can just leave it. We're not going to put anything beneath it. So we'll hit the check mark. Last thing we need to do is add those fillets. So we'll come up here to the fillet. Right? You don't need to do this in the sketch. You can do a sketch fillet, but most of the time you're just going to fillet whenever it's 3D. By default, the radius is 0.2. We want to set that to 0.25. And then we're just going to click where we need to round. So the 2 ears and the front corners here. And hit the check. Alright, so once you have your part, obviously you're going to want to start your drawing. So you're going to hit plus, insert new element. We want to create drawing. ANSI A-inch should be in your recents. We'll click on part 1, drop in our front. Sometimes this takes a long time, sometimes it doesn't. Drop in our top. Drop in our side and our isometric. So if your side view is kind of like into your title block here and you need to move it up, if you move the front view, it'll also move the side view, just so you know. Right? It also locks these together so that they stay straight on. Right? So if you need to move one, they should all follow each other besides the isometric. That'll go kind of anywhere. So you want to line that one up as best you can. All right. Once you drop these in there, what we want to do is show shaded view here on the isometric. You just want to get in the habit of always making that shaded. And then we're going to show the hidden lines on all of our views. There's no hidden lines on here. Right, and the hidden lines are showing where that hole is going through in each of the views. On the top, we do want to add that center mark. And then we can start our dimensioning. All right, so we have hidden lines, shaded, center mark. You're going to dimension it just like we did anything else. So we're going to baseline dimension here to give our widths. Then you're going to do your heights. Then you're going to do your depths. And your hole location. So 0.25, 0.375, 0.75. All right, last thing we need to add is the radius here for the fillet. When you're done, you just want to make sure that you add your title block, last name, quiz, hit the check mark, share, change it to your team, pick your team, can view, and share. All right, good luck. If you need help, I am available all day during office hours. I will see you on Thursday.